Next, we have the non-consent agenda. A, unfounded and not sustained, case number 1H6-16.
I have a motion that we defer this case for further consideration. I would like the board to put the Garrity materials on the agenda for the next board meeting so that the board can review the officer's statement. I think the officer's statement might be determinative of the outcome in this case. So my motion is to defer and place 186-16 Garrity on the next agenda.
Second?
I get a second?
I think Valerie did.
You second?
Second, yes.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
May we revisit 186-16?
Sure.
Given the fact that Ms. Vandeventer has already discussed her communication with the complainant in this case, I don't believe that it's appropriate for her to make motions on the case and to act on the case. I think that she should recuse herself.
So the comment is that she has spoken with the individual?
The complainant in this case, that's correct.
Okay.
The communication that you've had with this person, is it limited to the email requesting the assistance?
Yes, we have not discussed the merits of the case whatsoever. Would you like me to further disclose my communication?
I think I may even have a copy of that for if you guys want to see it.
I want to hear it. Just tell me what you say.
Yeah, okay, so the history of this is we did an outreach to the public defender's office on how to file, what the CPOA and POB does and how to file civilian complaints. At that meeting, there was an attorney there, and he said, and I worked at the public defender for 5 years, so I set that outreach up. There was an attorney there, and he said, I assisted my client with filing a complaint 2 years ago. I've been trying to understand what happened with the complaint. I've sent several emails. I haven't heard anything. I was expecting to have results by now. Director Harness instructed that attorney to contact him to get an update. The attorney sometime later contacted me. The attorney said, I have reached out to Director Harness, but he did not reply. I instructed him to ask Director Harness again for an update. And so he reported to me that he then left another voicemail with, I presume it was Katrina, because he said I left a voicemail with a woman. And that he still had not heard back. And so what I did after that was I said, okay, I'll follow up. And then I put this case on our CRC agenda, and then the case came to us. And that's the extent of my communication. I never discussed the facts of the case or anything like that. I just tried to get it processed because it's from 2016, this case, so it's been hanging around for over 2 years.
And I'm pretty sure we've discussed that in the past about what our role should be if people reach out to us about a case.
Yeah, I don't have any problems with what she did. They did not discuss the case. She just gave them some advice how to move forward.
Yeah, I agree.
I have a question because in my notes about that, our discussion at this case review committee, I recall that we asked the director to take a look at, I mean, the essence of the case is the man who, there was a DV battery on a household member arrest. The man complains that there have been lots of calls to his wife from the officer. He claims it was the officer's plan to engage with his wife personally. The wife, as I understand it, as I remember it, would not speak to the CPOA staff. There was a list in the complaint attached to the attachments that were part of it of calls that were made to her phone, from her phone. I have no idea. But what all it was a list of calls. We didn't have any assessment of that document. And I recall that we asked because the staff was saying they didn't have anywhere to go with this. The officer said he didn't do it. The wife wouldn't talk to him. The husband is making a complaint with with little credibility. So I asked if we could get an assessment of the call sheets. Were they coming to her from him or from her to him? Which would change the whole workings of it. So I thought that we sent that back to the staff for that purpose and that purpose alone. And that's, there may be legitimate reason for a victim of domestic violence to call a police officer. There may be cuckoo reasons for a domestic violence person to call the police officer or for him to call her. I just wanted to have an assessment of the only document we had that was factual. And I didn't know until just right now that there was communication between one of the members of our committee and this lawyer.
I mentioned it earlier when we were talking about the ex parte, but I also forwarded the emails to the personnel committee so that you guys could review them.
I didn't
So I
see that.
didn't try to conceal them.
Oh, no, I didn't think you did. I just haven't heard about it, that's all. So, to my way of thinking this, there's only one way to get factual information on this, and that is to find out where the calls were coming from and to. And that's what I thought we asked the staff to do.
So going back, as far as Director Harness's objection to Member Van Deventer bringing this issue up to go back to the CRC, go back to CPOA, whoever it is.
Yeah, defer it for.
Right. I don't personally have an issue with that. I've seen the communication. I've read through it, and there's no discussion of anything other than directing communication.
Chair Waits, the facts of the case, I think, are pertinent and deserve the board's consideration this evening. The complainant in this case could not produce his client to our agency to give a statement. There were several attempts to reach out to the complainant and his client to come in and cooperate with our investigation. He did not do that. Contemporaneously, the officer provided the text traffic, which showed that a majority of the text conversations that began were initiated by the wife. The officer's statement is that, yes, there were texts regarding the case where there was probable cause for an arrest. And when it got to the point where she requested to see him outside of his professional capacity, he stopped communication and he changed his phone number.
Oh, that's new information to me, too.
That's the case. You asked me to look into that. So I'm here ready to report to you what that investigation is. And that investigation was completed in early 2017. It simply was not written. My understanding was that the investigator in the case, when the complainant reached out to us, that he was going to contact him and give him an update and a status on the case. Apparently, he's saying that did not occur. It would be nice if I would have known that, and simply a phone call to me to say, hey, Ed, what's up with this case, would have been probably the more productive way to handle this.
I believe the complainant did call twice to understand what was happening with the case, and you did not respond to his communications. So the investigation also began a couple of months after it should have been completed pursuant to the CASA. So there are some, externalities here. But as far as the handling of the case for today, I went and reviewed the file. And there's information in there that I have to treat as privileged and confidential that I saw, but I do think that the information that I viewed is determinative of the question of whether or not there was prohibited fraternization under SOP 1-1-4, which is the question here. And I think it would behoove the board to review that and come to its own conclusion. And so that's why I made the recommendation that I made.
On what basis, since we have nothing from a complainant?
Based on information that exists within the file that I'm not privileged to discuss until we take a vote on the Garrity materials.
All right.
Okay, so at this time, can we go back and address her motion and go forward from there? We're not here to have a debate right now.
So the motion was?
What is your motion?
My motion was to defer the case so that we could put the Garrity on the next agenda so that you guys can review the file and decide for yourselves whether or not there was an SOP violation in this case.
Okay, I would second that motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So that's where we're at. All right.